Hello, fellas and ladies. Continuing the TIFF coverage right away with Saturday Night, the latest from director Jason Reitman. And this one is all about the hour and a half preceding the first ever episode of Saturday Night Live and the absolute insanity and chaos that preceded it. The question of whether or not it would get on air seemed very much not a certainty, and it follows Lorne Michaels as he tries to get his vision on TV. Right off the bat, I am a big, I'm a Saturday Night Live fan. I definitely recognize some of its obvious shortcomings, but overall I do admire the institution. I admire when it can be funny. I admire how it built some of the greatest comedic voices in history. I've also read up on this era of comedy. I'm a big fan of comedy in general. So I was very excited for this movie, and they fucking delivered. Right off the bat, I'm just going to get right up. The most undeniable aspect of this movie, whether you like the movie or you're wrong, the most undeniable aspect about this movie is ensemble. Everyone in this cast is very committed to the goal that Reitman had, and not one person is doing a cheap impression. With the exception of maybe, the only one I would say maybe that's not true of is, so Nicholas Braun plays both Jim Henson and Andy Kaufman. I knew about that going in. I thought, there's probably going to be a reason why, and there never was. Which is weird because his Jim Henson was pretty solid, but his Andy Kaufman kind of sucked. But aside from that, I really was into everyone in this cast, except for half of Nicholas Braun. Gabriel LaBelle is the anchor of this whole thing, playing Lorne Michaels. I just think Gabriel LaBelle has it. He showed it in Fabelmans and in Snack Shack, and it's clear that LaBelle just knows how to command a screen on his own as a leading man. And in this movie, he's constantly stressed. He looks like he hasn't slept in a week. You just see how he's just on a fucking tightrope, and the tightest blow can just knock him off his axis entirely. And I thought LaBelle did that very well. Everyone in this cast is had its own character to it. They all stand out in their own right. I loved Cooper Hoffman in this movie. I loved Rachel Senna in this movie. Willem Dafoe is always amazing. Standout for me was Corey Michael Smith as Chevy. I think he did an outstanding job, of just nailing Chevy, but also just how he was such a brilliant comedic voice, but also just a fucking shatterable ego that followed this guy in every way, even before he went on TV. I love Matt Wood as John Belushi. I loved Ella Hunt as Gilda Radner. Lorne Morris as Garrett Morris is also a really nice standout. I loved everybody in this ensemble. You could pick out anybody and say that was my favorite performance. I would be like, I get it. Everyone was really funny. I loved how funny this movie was. It's very snappy, very from what I read, authentic to what's being on that set is like. They're just constantly shit talking. They're constantly yelling at each other. It feels so lived in, this ensemble. I also loved the use of the fact that there are so many characters, yet nobody feels wasted. Everyone has a little bit of their own little arc going on. How Chevy is this ego maniac that needs to be tempered. How John Belushi is kind of willing to take this new period of his career seriously. Garrett Morris trying to, figure out why he's in this establishment. Of course, there's Lorne, who wants to get his vision realized. And I gotta say, I'm a defender of Jason Reitman. I think Ghostbusters Afterlife fucks. I don't care. Am I saying he's on his, before this, was he on his A game? Since, Up in the Air? No. But I always admire Reitman. And I gotta say, this, in terms of direction, this is his best effort to date. I loved how he really took it up a notch on the director's seat. Loved the really vintage-looking 16mm cinematography, its use of Steadicam, its use of the long takes, use of shaky cams. It's all very deliberate. Its real-time, ticking time bomb kind of approach is really effective. Also, thanks in part to John Baptiste's really, pumpy, jazzy score. The editing of the film is very kinetic and, very fast, but also sometimes it really focuses on these really intricate long takes. And I think Jason Reitman knew, I feel like he took a lot of time to process, and really prepare for this, because nothing in this movie feels accidental in a way. It feels so deliberate in a good way, and also it has this loose, vibey kind of vibe. What was I saying? It was successfully intense. Like, it did kind of, even though, like, in the back of your head, you know, like, okay, well, it's gonna air. We know how it works. SNL's actively going on. But it is kind of fascinating to learn that, like, there was a moment in time, like, very close to when this was gonna air, that this Saturday Night Live just being pulled at the last second in favor for a Carson rerun was very much on the table. That Lauren had to go up against, like, bureaucrats and, like, TV executives. His, like, cast being, like, young, like, hooligans. I do think it wrapped up a little quickly. I do think in the end it just kind of, like, was like, oh, we figured it out. You know, it's like, all right, here's a monologue. Now we're gonna do the SNLs. It's a little quick, but I do admire when the moment, like, there's a whole segment with LaBelle where he kind of just slows down, lets himself breathe. I think moments like that, I think, needed it. It's not just constant, just, there are moments of levity in this movie, and I don't think the dramatic beats are totally effective, but I do think they work, because it is effective in telling a story about a guy who just, like, he has something he believes so strongly, and he just wants to get it off the ground. He just wants people to believe in his vision. And I do think that it was effective in that regard, on top of being such an exhilaratingly entertaining movie. I fucking love this movie. I just fucking loved how well made Saturday Night is overall. Jason Reitman, like, really upped his game with the way he decided to document this time in history with so much chaos, humor, that feels right for these characters, right for these historic figures, and the ticking time plot that is effective. I love this movie so much more than I thought I would, and I'm going to go ahead and give it 8.5 Chevys out of 10. I ain't going to talk about awards, because this movie did not rank at TIFF, which was a red flag. It's not great that happened. I understand that. But I saw some of you little cowards pull it from your 10 as soon as it happened. And I'm just, hold on. I don't want to use the L word, but I'd be really surprised this movie was not nominated for Best Picture at the end of the day. This is a very industry-friendly movie. A lot of people in the industry are going to relate to this. They're also going to be very impressed with how Reitman made this movie. This is a very well-crafted movie. And I don't really see why it not ranking at TIFF is, like, the death of it. It's not a good sign. I think it ranking at TIFF would, like, definitely lock it in. But I also don't think it kills it either. Like, a lot of movies go to TIFF, don't rank, and then get nominated for, like, 10 Oscars anyway. All Quiet on the Western Front, anyone? Banshees of Inisherin, anyone? This is obviously an awful, terrible, bad faith argument, but this is how I see it. Maestro doesn't have the best reviews. Saturday Night reviews are overall really good, but, you know, they could be better, but I think I could get away with it. Maestro, had it gone to TIFF, it wouldn't have ranked, and I don't think that would have changed anything. I don't see why people are so quick to pull it. Like, I think there's people just have an idea of what this movie is without actually knowing what it is. But in reality, this movie's gonna get nominated for screenplay. It's gonna get nominated for score. I think that's a lock, and had it not been for The Brutalist, it could be winning. It's also, let's not forget, it's gonna get, like, maybe 4 Globe noms. LaBelle's probably gonna win the Globe. I don't think LaBelle's gonna get an Oscar nom, but he's probably gonna win the Globe. It's gonna get, like, a Critics' Choice nom, probably. PGA's probably gonna go for it. SAG's probably gonna go for it. It could also really, realistically get a director nom. I cannot stress this enough. Like, people are underestimating Reitman. Don't do that. I really think Reitman can get nominated for director. Cinematography's on the table, like, heavily. Editing is very much on the table. Makeup less so, but it's possible. Sound, there's a lot of, like, things breaking and, like, sets falling apart and, like, overlapping dialogue. I don't think sound's off the table. I think you need to predict this for Best Picture. Like, not top 5, no, but if you want to put it at 7, which I do, I really think you should. Because I don't really see, because, like, what? Well, the TIFF audience didn't go for it. My TIFF audience loved it. They just happened to like 3 more. So I think y'all should keep it in. If I'm wrong, oopsie doopsies, but, like, this is, like, I think this is a really strong Oscar player. But I digress. That's the end of that review. I got more TIFF stuff to review, so I'm gonna stop. Like, subscribe, and share. Bye!